Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the 15th audio file in the audiocast series known as the Q News Patriot. I am the Q News Patriot. My name is SGAnon. Glad to be back with you. I have so much to say to you, and seemingly so very little time to do it. Things are dynamic. They are in flux and in motion at breakneck pace. We have a tremendous amount of activity going on that we can see. We have a tremendous amount of activity going on that we unfortunately cannot see as of yet. And things are looking brighter all of the time. So for those of you just joining us, maybe first time or second time listeners, I'm going to start out really briefly, maybe a couple of minutes here, and we're going to talk just a broad overview of what in the world is going on. In 2016, when Donald Trump was elected president of the United States of America, a globalist enemy with plants, agents, and feelers in every country in the Western world, certainly, and in most of the countries around the world, went to war against the new president of the United States. There are globalist forces, worldwide, one power consolidative type people who have sought to enslave humanity for hundreds of years. They've been successful at doing this multiple times throughout the millennia. Existed across international boundaries and certainly in every financial arena in the world, but in most government and militaries, and certainly all of the ones that are large and influential. They're totalitarians and they seek to rule the world. A patriotic, deep military intelligence and deep military operator movement has existed in the United States since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. That group of individuals has spent the last half century planning, dry running, and testing the waters for the destruction and takedown and exposure of this global power structure. That exposure is here. Donald Trump in 2016, when he was elected president of the United States, declared war on the CIA covertly, declared war on child traffickers and pedophiles and human traffickers and criminals of that ilk covertly. In 2017, Donald Trump spent nearly a year traveling around the world, enlisting nations to the cause, forming what we now call the Alliance, and piecing together the scaffolding that was necessary internationally to prevent this cabalist power structure from being able to hold on. And so we had a 4-year presidency with President Donald J. Trump in the U.S. office. During that time, that entire presidency can be summed up, if we were to look at it as at a 40,000 foot overview. That entire presidency can be summed up as a fortification period. The lawful powers of the president of the United States were leveraged both by Trump as the commander-in-chief and the military to undo the infiltration that has occurred in the government of the United States and in governments around the world. There is a covert military alliance currently consisting of at least 32 nations. I contend that there are more that maybe some of the Anons out there could find. I've been able to find about 30 to 32. And they are all working together to essentially ensure that this deep state structure that has held the world in financial slavery and has tortured and ritualistically murdered children for hundreds of years, ensure that they have nowhere left to hide, no place safe to hide anymore. And so that operational period, the takedown of that structure, the actual true physical takedown of that structure, began in 2020 after the it actually began in 2016, but we moved into a new phase of readiness and activity in early 2020 when the COVID-19 virus, sometimes called the China virus, I would call it the Ukrainian virus, was unleashed upon the world. This was a this that was the shot heard around the world without being punny. It catalyzed the movement. The United States military at that time implemented phase one of the devolution of government plan and spent the remainder of 2020 after March and April fortifying the protection, security, and capability of the U.S. government in exile, which would go into exile after the publicly stolen presidential election of 2020. The powers of the lawful civilian government were delegated essentially or given to Donald Trump. He has remained commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States. The presidential election of 2020 was the first in a series of sting operations to out the criminals at every level in every area of society involved in treason, sedition, crimes against humanity, crimes against children, trafficking, complicity in any of the above, etc. And we have lived through this operation now up to October the 4th of 2022. And I dare say that we are doing quite a good job of keeping it together and, weathering this very long, very intense journey. This journey is going to get much more intense. It has begun doing so already. Tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about some comms from 45, some comms from Dan Scavino. We're going to talk a little bit about the global financial changing that is currently in motion. We're going to dissect a little bit of stuff with Putin and Russia. And then we are going to finish up the evening with a momentous insolvency that I think many of you are going to be, I think it's going to make a lot of sense, but I think many of you are going to be surprised anyway. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and get right to it. I'm going to come over here to 45's TruthSocial. For those of you that are maybe just finding me for the first time or have listened to one or two videos, understand that in an information war, there is kinetic warfare, there is digital warfare, there is consciousness warfare, and there is what I would call transdimensional warfare. In other words, politicking, financial power, leveraging the power of the purse in certain ways against an enemy. What Elon Musk is doing to Twitter right now is, to the normies, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're in court, we're out of court, we're in court. But the whole time that this has gone on, Elon has been exposing Twitter for being all bots, being massively one-sided, being okay with censorship. He's exposed communism in the company. He's exposed their apathy and inaction on matters like child pornography on the platform. This entire operation, as it pertains to Elon, or I should say this entire focal point of, this one focal point of the operation has been about Elon using his position and his resources to dismantle one of the biggest psychological weapons that the enemy cabal has. The cabal has managed to maintain their control and influence around the world for thousands of years, because they have had an absolute monopoly on information. They have owned the origination, flow, and control of information essentially since record keeping began. For the first time in history, we're in an age, the information age, where that control has been lost. It has been taken away from them. The digital soldiers out there, including all of you listening to me, and maybe some that aren't listening to me or don't even really know what they're doing yet, they're just researching. All of you are contributing to the betterment of mankind by breaking away from the control matrix that has kept us in the dark and in a very narrow lens. And so, with the loss of information, or excuse me, with the loss of control of information, we are able to wage a completely different kind of war. And we are doing so now. 45 on his TruthSocial sends so many comms to the people. I suspect some of them are meant for military in ways that even I'm not 100% sure on how to decipher. Some are obviously drawing attention to certain persons, places, or things. Others are graphically hinting at Q drops or related events that may be coming up. It's a treasure trove. And so today I was scrolling through the treasure trove on 45's TruthSocial, and I noticed a very big theme here, and it brings me a lot of joy. Starting right around at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock-ish Central Date Time, we have a post from 45 that headlines. It's from justthenews.com. Old case over audio tapes and Bill Clinton's sock drawer could impact Mar-a-Lago search dispute. So there's Bill Clinton. The very next post, National Archives official who notified DOJ and Trump probe declined to do the same over Clinton emails. And it has a picture of Hillary Clinton. So we've got the Clintons now. George W. Bush White House lost 22 million emails. This is the year 22, just so all of you are aware. The connection may or may not be important, but I think it's interesting. George Bush's White House lost 22 million emails, an article from Newsweek. That article is from September of 2016. The next article about Trump, he's still the one, compactmag.com, Compact Magazine, a radical American journal. And continues on like this. We have a video post from Jesse Waters' primetime show where he evaluates on Fox News, on the mainstream media, just the blatant absurdity of the Mar-a-Lago raid. We have another post shortly after that. National Archives loses hard drive with Clinton-era records from CNN.com. And then the very next post is a statement by the 45th president that reads, the National Archives and Records lost a whole hard drive full of highly sensitive information from the Clinton White House, more than 100,000 social security numbers and addresses, Secret Service and White House operating procedures, political records, and who knows what else. They left the hard drive in an unsecured location and didn't realize it was gone for months. Some say the data could have filled millions of books, and the National Archives admitted the material was personally identifiable, impacting thousands of White House staffers, visitors, and even one of Al Gore's daughters. National Archives and Records actually had to offer a $50,000 reward to try and get the information back. What else have they lost? How can Americans trust a system like this? There is no security at the National Archives and Records. I want my documents back. Are we noticing a trend going on here? I don't know about all of you, but I am noticing a couple of things. The first thing I'm noticing is we are drawing attention to all of the past administrations as it pertains to presidential records. I think that highlighting of those individuals is multifold. I think the records is part of it. I think what is contained in the records of previous presidents is going to blow your socks off because of the nature of it. In the middle of all of this, we have a graph that Donald Trump posted And that graph was posted, go on here. That graph was posted today at 13:22 Eastern Date Time. The graph is just a simple poll. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president? If you look at this graphic representation, it is exactly the tip of an ink pen, an old style ink pen, a Baroque style ink pen, a quill pen. It is the tip of a quill pen, plain as day on the graphic. We just spoke last time about 45 and Dan Scavino, both telling us about Russia and to follow the pin. And so now we have in the middle of highlighting all of the breaking with procedure and protocol, all of the questionable conduct from past presidential administrations, calling into question the Clintons, George Bush, George H.W. Bush, Barack Obama, vis-a-vis the Jesse Waters interview where they speak about that. We are seeing an awareness operation play out. How do you bring awareness to the greatest amount of the population? You have to play the game long enough and well enough to cause an organic shift. I think we're well into that organic shift, but we cannot let up. We are at that. We have them on the run, but if we allow them to regroup, then we really risk losing our advantages that we've worked so hard and sacrificed so much to have. And so I believe that 45 is continuing his comms to the people about how the Russia treason is going to boomerang back on not only the current fake administration, but on the previous administration and all of the people involved in that, and how a great deal of that is going to boomerang and take down individuals going back all the way to H.W. Bush, early 90s. I think we're going to have election fraud going all the way back into the mid 90s that is also going to come out. And we're going to see a true flood of information. I hope that all of you are ready for that, because despite the excitement which comes with that, this sort of D-class that we're entering is necessarily a tough one. And this is a very tenuous point in this process. This is, according, in the words of Christopher Miller, one of the most complex military operations ever conducted in our nation's history. There is absolutely not a syllable inaccurate in any way in that statement. We are living an extremely tightrope time where we have to be very careful about how we go about navigating the minefield that in some ways still exists. We have not, even though the Patriots have had control since Donald Trump became president, and we've never relinquished that overall control, getting all of the cockroaches to come out of their corners without tearing the house down is an extremely sensitive process. We have to bait some of them, cajole others. Some of them have to be forced out. Some of them have to be flushed out. Some of them can be negotiated with to come out and act like a cockroach for a while and then disappear again. I mean, this is a multi-angular process that we're going through, and I think the commander-in-chief is just continuing to remind us, of the complexity of it and just how big it is. And so that being said, I'm going to move over. Coming off of that, we're going to move to Dan Scavino. A lot of you know that I very much enjoy Dan Scavino. I think Dan Scavino is a much bigger player in a lot of this than even a lot of the Anons think. Dan Scavino is someone who has known the 45th president of the United States for essentially 2 decades now, a little over 2 decades. And not only does he have, the commander-in-chief's ear, but he has the commander-in-chief's trust. And so understanding then that we do have to sometimes send these messages and comms on the same formats and the same avenues and networks that the enemy is watching, a lot of times those are relayed via timestamp or through content on videos and pictures. So Scavino had a couple of very interesting, what I would call comms today. One of the first ones that I noticed was on the profile, on his TruthSocial profile. We have a comm posted at 1941, 7:41 Eastern Date Time. And it is a 32-second video of, it's a black and white video of Trump. In the background, it's the song "Hold On, I'm Coming" is playing. It looks like it's at the close of a rally. Matter of fact, it might be the most recent rally. So I came over here to the Q drops, and drop 1941 I thought was pertinent considering what's going on in Europe right now and some of the declass that we're learning with the Ukrainian situation and the Azovs. The Q post posted August 28th of 2018, drop 1941. Was Nazism ever truly destroyed? Was it merely a subdivision within a larger organization? One finger attached to a hand? Did Antifa organically form? Flag design coincidence? Socialist push in US and worldwide coincidence? Global power struggle. There is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. We, the people. Q. Get over here. Considering the events that are happening right now in Europe, and considering the direction that we are going to have to head publicly in order to jostle those heavy sleepers awake, we're going to see some disclosure about what really happened with the Nazis. Putin is not marching across Ukraine just so he can stop the flow of oil and money. This is about righting the wrongs that have been done to Russia in Putin's eyes. Putin is to Russia kind of like what Donald Trump is to the United States. He is a populist, a people's person. His history may be a bit checkered, but at the end of the day, Putin is a Russian and he is for Russia. And so there has been nearly a century of embarrassment and just general humiliation given to Russia, on top of the physical suffering and financial suffering that that country has endured over the last 100 years. And part of this is going to be the exposure of that. Part of this, when all is said and done, I think most of the world will look at Vladimir Putin as a morally gray individual who was willing to do the right thing when it counted. I truly believe that what Putin is doing in Ukraine is defeating the Nazis. They did not lose World War II like so many of us have been taught. I encourage all of you to look up Operation Paperclip and Operation Northwoods as it pertains to the survival of Nazis who were repatriated. So Dan Scavino pointing us today in the direction of victory over the Nazis. I think in this video, we have another post from Dan Scavino, one that he pinned to the top of the profile, posted today at 1842 Eastern Date Time, 6:42 Eastern Date Time. It's a short little video endorsement of Jeremy's razors, and the post itself says, "Don't forget to order your Jeremy's razors," and it has a little razor blade, and it says save $12 here, and it's got what looks to be an affiliate link. And so 1842 Eastern Date Time, I thought that was very interesting. So I came over to Q drops and I plugged in 1842. Drop 1842 didn't seem really relevant. It was more of like just a generic information drop. But when I plugged in the timestamp 642 and was looking through here, there are 27 posts on the Q boards that contain the timestamp 642. And so I just came down here to the very first one and I started kind of going through and, reading them with the context of what we know now in today's here and now. And I found something just really, really fascinating. Beginning with drop 2605 on 12/12, 2018 and 6:42 p.m. Remember that save $12 here on Dan Scavino's post. Remember, too, that Dan Scavino pinned that post on his profile and then re-truthed that post about an hour later. This is, I believe that's an implied emphasis that we can take from that. So 12/12 of 2018, 6:42, Q says 26:05, Q&A. The first question answered looks to have been asked at 6:42 and 27 seconds. So just very quickly right after the drop came live. Question is, how do you know the future? Q responds at 12:12 and 6:42:51. Drop 26:06. Control. Drop 26:07. 6:43. 1 minute later. The next question asked at 6:42 and 30 seconds. Is Seth alive? Q says no. Next question asked at 6:43 and 11 seconds. What were in the envelopes? Drop 26:08, 12/12, 2018, 6:43 and 33. So 333 right there on the timestamp. Our promise to counter. Next question asked at 6:43 and 32 seconds. Is there a plan in place for after Trump? Q responds and drop 26:09, 12/12, 6:43 and 49 seconds. Yes. Next question asked December 12, 2018 at 6:43 and 40 seconds. Will voter fraud be exposed before January? This being January of 2019. Q responds and dropped 26:10, 12:12, and 6:45. So 2 minutes later. No. 2019 push voter ID based on verifiable intel fraud. 2020 plus safeguarded. So it's fascinating, isn't it? We have Donald Trump highlighting on his TruthSocial very loudly today. George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and the various individuals connected to those administrations and traitors. If you remember the funeral of George H.W. Bush, the public funeral, Donald Trump wore a very unique outfit to that funeral. Donald Trump personally handed envelopes to former President George W. Bush, former President Barack Obama, their entourages, former President Bill Clinton. All of them had faces that went white with terror after reading the content in the envelopes. This was a topic, a hot topic amongst Anons when it first happened. What was in the envelopes? I personally, even to this day, right here and now, am not 100% sure what was in the envelopes. But I find it fascinating that that these same individuals that were given envelopes at the funeral of former President George H.W. Bush are being highlighted now by the Commander-in-Chief 45 for violation of presidential records protocol, how it was always okay for them. We have emails that were lost, stolen, or deleted. We have data that was lost, stolen, or deleted. We have classified documents from the Obama administration that were lost, stolen, or deleted. We have audio tapes from Bill Clinton of classified conversations that occurred with, who knows who, that were stuffed in his sock drawer. So we have brought the focus onto the blatant corruption at a broad level today on 45's TruthSocial, and at the same time, we have Dan Scavino putting out comms directing us to what I believe to be a Q&A session that happened almost 4 years ago that discussed voter fraud. It discussed the plan for after Trump. It discussed what was in the envelopes that were given to the very individuals that Trump highlighted in his TruthSocial. And curiously enough, it also addresses how, some of what has gone on in the present day and time was essentially forecasted 3, 4, 5 years ago. And Q says control. And so with that, we have Dan Scavino's, I'm going to switch gears here. We have Dan Scavino's final com that I took away from today, posted at 1928. And it is a picture of what looks to be a child in front of the emergency broadcast on the television set. And the picture says, "You've been kidnapped. The characters from the last TV show you watched are trying to rescue you. Who is coming to save you?" My interpretation of that right off the bat is, you've been kidnapped. Who is coming to save you? And this could go a couple of different ways. My first impression, and the one that I addressed with each of you on TruthSocial, is that this is Scavino telling us the military is coming. This would be a corroboration of what I was told. And frankly, haven't we all been kidnapped? We have a rogue Manchurian government holding all of us hostage in the United States of America. And many of you out there around the world have been living under Manchurian governments for years. Individuals who would, tell you one thing to your face when you go speak to them at a local public town hall or a public forum, but behind closed doors are beholden to interests that you are never going to know, or you were never supposed to know about. And so I believe that this is Scavino telling us that the military is going to, return the diamonds and save the country. I also believe that this is Scavino telling us that we are actively, purposefully, and assuredly saving all of the children. And that is, I think, the mission critical objective number one, is to get all of the networks and dumbs destroyed. And we are. I think we have pressed forward in that now for going on 6 years, and I'm not 100% sure how much longer that aspect of things may take, but that could potentially continue into the public space once things go, overt. So this this com from Scavino posted at 1928. So I came over here to the Q boards and I put in 1928. I took my initial impression from that com and I decided to back it up just a little bit more. And so posted on August the 20th of 2018 at 12 o'clock midnight. So this is midnight on August 20th. In brackets, movie 1, showtime. BO to CS to BO to NO to CS to NO to BO. And then looks like 6 brackets that are empty. BO could be Barack Obama. I'm not actually off the top of my head 100% sure of the others. Who instructed the DOJ? This is the next line. Who instructed the DOJ to release select text messages? When did Rod Rosenstein learn of involvement? Barack Obama and NO. What happens if Rod Rosenstein knew prior to signing the CP FISA? Why did Rod Rosenstein, under congressional testimony, refuse to answer the question regarding reading of FISA prior to execution? Who signed page 380? Who signed page 389? Who signed page 390? Who signed page 391? Who signed page 392? vault.fbi.gov/D1-release/D1-release view is one of 4 firewalls. Question mark? Who signed? Question mark. Firewalls? Question mark. Who signed? Firewalls? Repeated. FISA 20. The trilogy. Movie 1, full. The start. Plot. How the intelligence apparatus, State Department, and Department of Justice, in quotes, of the United States, in joint effort with our ex-primary foreign allies plus other covert assets, as directed by Hussein White House in coordination with HRC, colluded and conspired to rig the presidential election of 2016 in an effort to install HRC, frame current POTUS projection, create emergency contingencies regarding installation of safeguards and firewalls to prevent exposure or continuation of presidency should counterfail to ensure operators, actors, agents of power, past and present, remain in control, and use sources / covert assets of the fake news media to carry out X-frame barrage of strategic, coordinated, in brackets, guided attacks designed to divide, cover, shelter, justify impeachment removal in effort to regain control and prevent public awareness of illegal, criminal, treasonous acts. Movies 1 through 3. Coming soon to a theater near you. Movie 2, coming this fall. Movie 3, to be announced. Enjoy the show. Excuse me. This ties right back into the Russia gate that has been on the lips of everyone now for quite some time. As we talked in our last file, the whole issue of Russiagate became a pivotal fulcrum in this entire military operation. The actions taken by the 44 administration and most of the entire federal government at the same time directly affected how these events had to play out later. And so I believe that we are being told once again, continuously, by Scavino and the president of the United States, the rightful president right now, that the Russia boomerang is coming and it's going to be biblical. We have just recently, just yesterday, a Russian nuclear submarine. This is a report from Fox News on October the 3rd of 2022. Russian nuclear submarine armed with doomsday weapon disappears from the Arctic harbor. The submarine is said to be capable of creating a 1,600 foot tall radioactive tsunami. And that sounds like a heck of a weapon. And according to this article, it disappeared from the Arctic harbor. So it's fascinating that we have so much ratcheting up as it pertains to Russia and Putin, and as it pertains to this escalation towards an open war. You know, one of the things that I think is extremely fascinating is on October, so this submarine left yesterday and disappeared. That seems like an interesting plot, especially when the movie The Hunt for Red October deals with a Russian submarine disappearing from dry dock. So Q Drop 2350, which was posted on October the 5th of 2018, so a 4-year delta would be coming tomorrow, has a picture, of a submarine docked in an Arctic port. It has a British flag and a flag that I've not been able to identify in the little bit of research that I was able to do on it. But the file name of the image itself is redoctober2.jpg. And the Q post states double meanings exist. And then we scroll down further in the Q post. Future news will highlight. Note that the hunt for was dropped. Details matter. And Q says, so it begins. How do you start a war? Markers matter. Playbook fail. Q. It continues in an expoundment upon the post. It's a post within a post. Post Justice K confirmation. Russia. Think UK, Australia, pointing at Russia. Why? Deflect D class, deflect blame, focus Russia, make Russia the global enemy. The hunt for Red October, hunt for dropped. Why? When was the unauthorized missile fired? Was it found or discovered prior to the hunt? Russia sub threat push. Red October, double meanings exist. This is Q telling us in 2018 that we were going to arrive at a point when a doomsday equipped submarine was going to disappear and it was going to be blamed on Russia. Isn't it interesting that this picture is running the Union Jack. This submarine in this picture is running the Union Jack of the United Kingdom. We also know that the United Kingdom, along with the government in Australia, your governments, not the people, the governments, the corrupt governments of these other nation states, conspired with the administration of traitorous Hussein Obama in the United States to obfuscate and prevent a legal presidential candidate, both from running and then later, when he was elected president of the United States, from being able to execute the duties of that office. This operation is global in scale. The only reason that all of us are speaking to one another in this way right here and now, instead of our countries mutually shooting things at one another, is because the military alliance that exists in the background, that is carrying the war out behind the scenes, is already aware of the rogue governmental agents and assets in their various nations around the world who have attempted to start wars with one another. Interfering in another country's electoral process is an act of war. Interfering with another country's lawful government is an act of war. What Barack Obama did in Libya and Ukraine are war crimes. These are acts of war. What was done to the United States, both in 2016 and then on a scale much larger in 2020, these constitute acts of war. And so we have avoided a world war because military intelligence has known for some time that all of this is being done by the same people. And those individuals, those groups, those powers, pockets of influence, they are the enemy. And so we have been living an operation being carried out by the Patriots and the militaries around our great earth, commanded by their lawful governments, to extract the enemy from the hideouts and crevices and swamp holes that they have hidden in and have plunged the world into so much chaos for so long. And so to kind of circle this full around, I truly believe that the information I was given regarding the National Emergency Alert System being planned by the U.S. Military in or around Washington, D.C. recently is real. I think Dan Scavino confirmed that for us today. I think Dan Scavino also confirmed for us that a wartime precipice sort of event is being set up. It's very scary if you lost a nuclear warhead to a rogue regime. And I think that that is a story that's been told a lot. I think that we are playing the game, so to speak, better than the enemy, and we're going to let them run as much of the non-lethal portions of their playbook as long as we can. And unfortunately, we've had to let them get away with some of the, acts of war that come with fighting for your survival. The takeaway I think to know is that we have the loyalty of the United States armed forces and the armed forces of various countries around the world. And those individuals are working together and informing us, keeping us informed as to the greatest extent possible through these hidden comms that we sometimes dissect here on this show. And so, that being said, I think we're being told that there's a lot happening. We're going to switch gears just for a moment here and talk a little bit about the financial, reset and how this plays into it. We're only 4 days into Red October at this point. A great many of you are anxious and ready to have some sort of clarity as it pertains to the financial system and a market crash. In my opinion, that event is coming. In my opinion, we are going to hit every rung in the ladder on the way down. because we have a superstructure system that is attempting to maintain its survival with every last little wretched fingernail. And so they're going to move this, you know, case here or move those resources there, sell this, buy this back, press this down, you know, interchange as much leftover cash as they have because their whole pot is bleeding dry. I think we have arrived at the point now where the pot is essentially dry and we are just trying to decide who's going to fall first because we're all going to fall when one of us comes down. It's a house of cards built on 4 cards. And when one goes, we're all going to go. And so with that being said, many of you out there are aware already that the central banks and the big transnational banks have filed for bankruptcy. Many of you are aware that spin-offs of very large hedge funds and those hedge funds themselves have filed for bankruptcy. The system is bleeding out the top at the top, and that process is beginning to work its way down through all of the holdings that those entities have. And so I am here to tell you this evening that one of those holdings that has gone insolvent, and I can't corroborate this with documentation yet, but I'm saying that I'm told from my individual, one of the ones that has gone fully insolvent is the company known as McDonald's. McDonald's Corporation has taken staggering losses over these last 2 years or so. We had an enormous jump in profiteering in 2020, followed by what has amounted to an almost $12 billion loss in operating revenue since then. The company is over leveraged, and the institutions that the company is beholden to, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and others, have all filed for bankruptcy. And so let me be very clear when I say that you can get online right now and you can look for McDonald's Corporation bankruptcy, and you're probably not going to find anything about that just yet. But I have personally confirmed this now outside of my source with 2 separate individuals, one of whom is a McDonald's employee, who states that, or who both of them have stated that based on what's going on internally, they believe that to be the case. And one of the individuals employed by one of the franchises of that organization has now gone almost 10 days without a payroll. So these payrolls, from what I understand, the individual I spoke to, it's handled by an independent franchisee of the McDonald's name, but those payrolls are still run through the corporate accounting office, and payroll did not run. And has not run for 10 days. And so my understanding, my friends, is that the very deep cabal companies out there are going belly up, one after the other after the other. McDonald's is the largest food organization in the world. With this insolvency, we are going to see some serious uncertainty as it pertains to your fast access food. Many of you out there listening are already aware of just how bad McDonald's is for you. Allow me to highlight that just for a moment. McDonald's may be one of the worst things you can ingest. The cabalist organization known as Disney has been kidnapping and assisting in the ritualistic sacrifice of children, as well as the mind control programming, both of the masses and of children that are child stars like Demi Lovato and Amanda Bynes and others for as long as it has been in existence. McDonald's has been right there with Disney, assisting in the disposal of those dead children. Where do you think all of the kids that are sacrificed in the name of Baphomet and Moloch end up? We can't simply put that many bodies out to sea. The ocean would eventually wash them onto shore. It seems unreasonable to burn them on top of the ground, simply, especially in today's world, simply because you would draw maritime attention. You would also draw satellite radar attention. So how do you dispose of mass murder on a mass scale? Well, it's very simple. You put it in the food. And so it's very interesting that Disney Cruise Lines runs a route that passes right by Epstein Island. It's also very interesting that the largest McDonald's on Earth is located right up the road from Disney, Universal Disney Studios in Orlando, Florida. It is no coincidence that at the same time we have the world financial system imploding and the Kabbalist companies fighting for their very lives, financially and soon to be physically. It shouldn't be a surprise that just yesterday, Kareem Daniel was elected to the McDonald's board of directors, who is currently serving as the chairman for Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, where he leads the organization that delivers Disney storytelling to fans around the world. In the role that he has had, Mr. Daniels has overseen the profitability for Disney's global media businesses, including streaming services, as well as theatrical film distribution and their industry-leading advertising. In other words, this guy is the mind control person. This guy is the deep state person. All right, this individual is at the very top of one of what is potentially one of the most evil organizations ever to exist in human history. And he is now on the McDonald's board of directors. Folks, you can't make this up. All right. I am here to tell you that as we go through this process, we are scorching them out militarily, and that is going to only get more intense. We are scorching them out financially. We are starving them out economically. We are obliterating them in the narrative space. We are eviscerating their lies. We are discovering the connections that they've hidden for decades in days. We are inevitable. And I am here to tell you that even though it's under wraps and even though it's still behind the scenes, McDonald's has gone belly up, and they don't know what they're going to do just yet. I don't have any more information about what that's going to bring. I can infer with my Anon brain that, considering the involvement with McDonald's, just the amount of influence and space and presence that organization has, I can't imagine that it's going to take very long at all for those effects to be seen. I have it confirmed, at least from an individual in my sphere who I crossed paths with, just a stranger who I crossed paths with, that there is something janky going on with the payrolling with that particular organization. I believe the two are connected. And so I guess that's a good place to maybe shift gears to, the closing portion of our talk tonight. We are winning in so many ways. It's really getting hard to keep up. The comms are daily now. We have massive hints being dropped by key individuals. We have Q retruthing on TruthSocial, the @Q profile, retruthing information regarding the FBI's corruption in Russiagate and the 2008 financial crash. We have 45 telling us clearly to follow the pin. We have all of the signs of a large economic downturn coming. We have Russia turning off gas and fuel to Europe. We have a brewing energy crisis around the world. Inflation is out of control. Bankruptcies, just in the public space, are at an all-time high for corporate operations. We are winning in ways that I'm not sure many of us truly appreciate and understand, because we have so much of the negativity of this struggle and this process in our face. And I'm here to tell you that while all of that may be true, and while all of that is painful and no less difficult to absorb and deal with, we are making moves that are world altering right now. And we are going to have that public vindication. There are 27 days left in this month. Look at what's happened in 4. We are there. I mean, we are at Red October, and we are going to see things ratchet up to that phase 2 public reveal. And I am here to tell you that when that happens, each of you are going to be called on. You're going to be called on for encouragement. You're going to be called on information, or for information. But more than anything, you're going to be called on to tell those who are just coming around and who are going to be kind of forced into coming around that it's okay, that this process is not going to lead us down that road to destruction, but is going to lead we the people into an era of hope and light and world peace. And isn't that worth it? Isn't it worth it to go through this process, to save the children and to learn about what has happened to them, to make sure that we clean out every corrupt cranny around our great earth, to make sure that we cleanse every tunnel and destroy it, that no underground base goes undiscovered, that the deep state and each government around our world be brought to heel and removed, for justice to be properly given, both to the individuals out there, each of you personally, but also for our justice for our nations. Many of the countries in the world have been victimized at the civilizational level by this power structure. And isn't it worth it to go through this to get all of that back? I am here to tell you that we are getting it back. And the news today about that insolvency only strengthens my resolve and gives me further hope. I can assure you that we are moving into an unbelievable time. And I'm excited to be going into that with all of you, despite what I see around me. And so with that, my last little nugget for you tonight before I let you go, if you go to stockanalysis.com and look up the statistics for McDonald's common stock at close today, October 4th, 2022 at 4 p.m., market close, the company's balance sheet, and you Anons will appreciate this. The company has $1.87 billion in cash on hand. 187. The number of death or murder, depending on how you want to look at it, 187. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, all of you listening from all around the world, thank you so much for bearing with me all the way to the end here. I know that it's been a whirlwind of a show. I know that I've maybe struggled a little bit to maintain my a typical even keel. It is just because I am so elated to be walking this walk with each of you, to be going through this time in our history. And it is my sincere hope that all of you, as you um, go to rest for the evening, or if you're listening to me from across the world, going to maybe work in the morning, that you do so with an easy conscience and an easy heart, knowing that um, the prosperity and peace that we envision for our world is at hand, and we are coming into that. And so, with that, I'm going to leave you. Have a wonderful evening. I will hopefully be back again with you soon. This is SGAnon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.